In the 8th year of being with Xavier. He was going to get married. And the bride wasn't me. His friend smiled and teased him. Jocelyn has been with you for 8 years. I really thought you could settle down for her. Xavier didn't care at all. Something that can be summed and dismissed at will. Why should I settle down for her? But later, the truth came to light. Xavier held me tightly in his arms and begged me not to leave. He said he would protect me well. Huh? Who wants his protection? I just want him to die. In the 8th year of being with Xavier. He was going to get married. The bride-to-be wasn't me. It was the eldest daughter of the Serena family group. Serena. Who had known him for only half a month. And I was just a canary who had been obedient and sensible by his side for 8 years. He had been with her for 7 days in a row. And it was only on the 8th day that he thought of me. However, on a late autumn night, he sent a very brief message attached: come to box 808 of the Imperial Court Club. Wear the dress I gave you last month and come to celebrate my friend's birthday. The dress he gave me was a deep blue long dress with a high V-neck. The autumn wind was rustling outside the house. I looked up at the cold moon. And there was no room for me to refuse. When I took a taxi and rushed to the box, the crowd was already in a commotion. When they saw me coming, everyone was stunned. And then they all looked at Xavier, who was sitting in the corner. He just raised his eyes slightly and loudly beckoned to me, come here. These 2 simple words tugged at my legs. When I was 5 steps away, the door of the box was pushed open again. A white figure flashed past me and ran cheerfully in the direction I was going, naturally and skillfully taking a seat beside Xavier. That person was Serena. I stood there awkwardly, my hand holding the bag tightening little by little. The scrutinizing eyes around me were none friendly. Either teasing, sneering, or sizing me up. I understood. They wanted to see me make a fool of myself. Serena charmingly leaned against Xavier and looked at me with a naked gaze. Aren't you leaving? Or do you want to stay? I didn't say a word and stubbornly looked at Xavier. I was his person. And he had called me here. I couldn't leave. Nor did I dare to leave without his permission. Xavier was also looking at me. His cold eyes were colder than the cold moon outside the window. He held a glass of clear wine in his hand. His eyes looked over through the wine, with a smile that didn't reach the bottom of his eyes. I forgot that Serena is also coming. You can go back. I pinched the palm of my hand with my fingertips and nodded under the teasing gazes around me. Okay. I wasn't angry. Nor did I cling on stubbornly. I didn't know if my face was pale. But when I turned around, my feet were extremely stiff. It should be because of the cold. It was so cold that day that it made my eyes ache. I managed to walk outside the box with great effort. The door behind me wasn't closed tightly in time. Then I heard a false sigh mixed with laughter. Xavier. Jocelyn has been with you for about 8 years. Right? I really thought you would settle down for her. I didn't expect that it would be our Serena who would capture your heart in the end. These words were extremely ironic. I didn't want to listen. But the door behind me was pulled open again, leaving a small gap. Don't you want to listen? Serena grabbed me at the door. Don't you want to know his evaluation of you? Actually, I didn't really want to. But unexpectedly, that sneer followed immediately. She's just something that can be summed and then dismissed at will. Why should I settle down for her? Just because her hospitalized younger brother has to rely on the little medical expenses I give every month? He said it so casually, trampling my poor self-esteem to pieces. Behind the door, the crowd was in an uproar. And someone else teased and made things difficult. But I think she really likes you. Aren't you afraid that she'll cause trouble when the news of your marriage is announced? There was silence behind the door. And everyone was waiting for Xavier's answer. But I didn't want to listen. I already knew the sarcasm clearly. Why should I listen to it a second time? Please let go. I pulled my hand back fiercely. It was still useless. Serena wouldn't miss the opportunity to humiliate me. And Xavier wouldn't show the slightest bit of pity for me. A canary that has been kept in captivity for 8 years. What ability does she have to spread her wings and fly again? If she had any sense, she should know that a woman who has been played with by me is unwanted by anyone except me. Her body and face are the last value that keeps her by my side. Only by staying by my side can she survive. He sneered. And the people in the box laughed along with him. I held the bag in my hand tightly, letting the invisible slaps behind the door hit my face again and again. Serena finally let go of me. So what if you've been with him for 8 years? You should understand these words. Right? In his eyes. You're just something that can be seen and dismissed at will. Jocelyn. One should have self-awareness. Don't you think it's dirty that you sold your body for your younger brother? Was it dirty? It seemed that it was indeed quite dirty. But there was no other way. I needed money. And I needed to live. I was different from those people in the box. I just wanted to live. Together with River. Even if we were just struggling to survive in this world. At least we were still alive. When I got home, it was about to rain outside. I hesitated for a long time at the door before entering. This house was also bought by Xavier. From the inside out, there were very few things that belonged to me. He said I was the canary he kept in captivity. Then, let out a low sigh. Could this house be considered a bird cage? This realization inexplicably made it hard for me to breathe. But at the beginning, Xavier wasn't like this. Neither was I and River. 8 years ago, the Jocelyn family was one of the top large enterprises. If it hadn't been for other enterprises joining forces to suppress the Jocelyn family repeatedly, the Jocelyn family wouldn't have declined. My parents wouldn't have been tortured by debts to the point of jumping into the sea. I and River wouldn't have become homeless orphans. And I wouldn't have yielded myself to be by Xavier's side, but the reality was harsh. There weren't so many what-ifs in this world. The Jocelyn family was destroyed overnight. The day I took on the family's debts, I had just turned 18. The wonderful life I had once imagined disappeared without a trace overnight. I had to pay off the debts, support the family, and take care of my younger brother who suffered from congenital heart disease. The first time I met Xavier, I was kneeling on the roadside holding River, who was having an attack. Before that, I had begged all the relatives and friends of the Jocelyn family. I knelt down one by one and said, "Please, save my younger brother. I will pay back the money. Please." But that day, even though I bruised my forehead, I still couldn't get anyone to open the door for me. Those so-called relatives who used to bow and nod to the Jocelyn family drew a clear line from us overnight. The one who finally came to my rescue was Xavier, who was just an acquaintance of mine. When I was drenched from head to toe by the rain and was in the most embarrassed and desperate state, he opened the car door for me. A cold smile tugged at the corners of his indifferent face. "Come with me. I can help you." Xavier was an illegitimate son of the Xavier family who couldn't show his face in public. In the early years, he was good to me. He helped me pay off the debts, paid for my younger brother's medical treatment, and brought me whatever was precious. At that time, I liked him. Really liked him. I thought he was the one who pulled me out of the darkness. But later, when I told him that I wanted to start a company and revive the Jocelyn family, everything changed from then on. The tenderness was no longer there. I could only watch as the female companions beside him changed one after another. He stopped paying for River's medical expenses, watched me with no way to seek help, and finally, when I was bullied, he arrogantly dragged me into the room and insulted me wantonly. He pinched my chin, and I still remember his cold eyes. He said, "Jocelyn, don't you understand? Without me, you are nothing. You are just a canary I keep by my side. You'll never be able to fly away from me in this life." That day, I completely understood. I had just fallen from one cage into another. What a ray of light in the darkness. He had just little lamp in my world. As long as he wanted, that lamp could be extinguished at any time. The intense pain made me completely sober. Later, I never made any demands again. He didn't love me. And after the novelty wore off, I put away my true feelings and peacefully became his canary. He paid to save my younger brother. And I sold my body for his amusement. We were just getting what we needed from each other. After all, people always have to gain something. I didn't have to have his heart. Living was much more important than love. I wouldn't just love him. And I didn't need to just love him. I opened all the windows in the room. I let the cold wind blow into my clothes. In the intervals of my heartache, I was gradually filled with clarity and reality. When I was feeling dizzy, I received a call from the hospital. A nurse on the other end of the line was anxious. Jocelyn, are you available now? Your younger brother may not be in a good condition. Can you come and take a look? Right away. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't even have time to change my clothes. I hung up the phone and rushed out. I hailed a car downstairs. Soon, let out a low sigh. A call came. But it wasn't from the driver. The presidential suite of the Turner's Hotel. You have half an hour. Bring a box of condoms and 2 sets of silk pajamas. 1 set for men and 1 set for women. Xavier briefly stated his request in a calm tone. I was stunned for a moment before I reacted. I held the phone in my hand. My fingertips digging into my palm. Could you ask your assistant? Or call the hotel staff? The hospital just called. River. But I specifically want you to deliver it. Xavier interrupted me mercilessly. His voice had no fluctuations. But it was extremely malicious. What? You're using my money. And now your younger brother comes before me? Or do you want to experience what it's like to have no money? His threat was blatant. He was certain that I would go. Just like every other time before. On the other end of the phone, I could even hear Serena's undisguised sneer. I softened my tone and made a concession. Then could you give me an hour? I'll deliver it to you in an hour. Can't you understand what I'm saying? Xavier's tone turned cold. He had never been patient. Start timing from now. If I don't see the things in half an hour, I promise that your younger brother will never receive any more hospital assistance until he dies. Even if you have the money. If you don't believe it, you can try and see what the result will be if you challenge my bottom line again. My finger trembled. And my voice was carried away by the wind. Okay. I couldn't argue with Xavier. It had always been like this. After 8 years of being together day and night. He knew too well how to grasp my weakness. He knew that River was everything to me. I turned around and went to a 24-hour supermarket and bought all the things he wanted. The condoms were of the brand he usually used. As for the pajamas, I had to settle for the second best. But they were still the most expensive ones in the supermarket. I rushed to the hotel with the things. In the elevator, several men and women wearing masks stood together. When they saw me, they seemed to be stunned for a moment. But I didn't have the time to think about it. I was in a hurry to deliver the things to Xavier, and eager to wait for him to let me go and see River. At the door, my hand hesitated over the room card, and finally, I chose to knock on the door. He had only brought me here before. But now, Serena was about to become the mistress of this place. I didn't want to open the door and see something that would hurt my eyes. I knocked on the door for a full minute before the person who opened the door finally showed up. Xavier was only wearing a bathrobe, and the water in his hair hadn't dried yet and was still dripping down continuously. He took the things and glanced at them, slightly raising his eyebrows and then sizing me up from head to toe. You're really quick. You rushed to send the condom to the sugar daddy without even changing your clothes. You're the first one to do that. He said it casually. And I also forced a smile. You pay. And I do the job. It's only right. The receipt is in the bag. Please transfer the money later. Xavier's face instantly turned dark. Jocelyn. You really are vile. My smile remained unchanged. I wish you a pleasant night of love. Bang. The door was slammed shut. Mercilessly. Almost hitting my nose. I released my clenched fist and let out a long sigh of relief. This way. It's just fine. I don't love him. And he doesn't love me either. As long as there's money. It's okay. I looked at the time. It was already very late. Afraid that something unexpected might happen to River, I took a taxi to the hospital. On the way, Xavier transferred the money to me. It was a full 10,000 yuan. Along with his sarcastic remarks. Take the extra money and buy some self-esteem. Don't be too vile. I accepted it. No one would turn down money. I sent a smiling face emoji thank you. Since then, Xavier never replied to me again. When I rushed to the hospital, River had already fallen asleep. The nurse said that he had a sudden high fever earlier and had a convulsion. After taking the medicine, he had stabilized. As long as he was carefully observed later, there would be no major problems. The heart that had been hanging all the way finally settled down. What is self-esteem? It's enough that I can provide River with the best medical environment and use the best medicine for him to ensure that he's okay. When I got home, the sky had already dawned. The morning light accompanied me as I fell asleep. I slept soundly until the afternoon. When I woke up, the dim and yellowish glow of the setting sun filled the entire bedroom. Xavier was sitting on the sofa with his back to the setting sun, and his expression was hidden in the shadows. When I saw him, I was stunned for a moment. "Why are you here?" He hadn't come to find me for a long time. At this time, he should be accompanying Serena. Xavier had a cold face and let out a sneer. "Isn't this what you want?" He stood up, walked a few steps to the bedside, grabbed my chin, and forced me to look up, smiling wickedly. "Jocelyn, you want to marry me so much. You want to cling to me completely? You even go to any lengths for this? Actually, it's not that I can't marry you. If you beg me and make me happy, maybe I'll really be willing to be the big fool who spends money on you for a lifetime." There was only a short distance between Xavier and me, and the hand he used to hold my chin kept tightening. I frowned in pain, not understanding. "What? You're really good at pretending." He threw me aside, took out his phone, tapped a few times, and then threw it in front of me. The cold white light on the phone screen made his stern face seem even more unfeeling. "Don't tell me you didn't ask someone to take these photos. Serena has found out. You're targeting her." I covered my sore chin and looked down. There was a piece of news on the phone. There were several pictures, respectively capturing me, Xavier, and Serena, who entered the hotel last night. On the title, there were a few blatant big words: "8-year relationship ruined. Serena shamelessly becomes the other woman for love." I understood. He came this time to vent Serena's anger. I returned the phone to him and looked into his eyes seriously. "I didn't mean to ruin you too. I didn't do this. If Serena has any misunderstandings, I can explain. The 8 years between you and me were a fair deal. You can hold a press conference, and I can clarify. I never thought of ruining anyone's reputation, and I definitely won't ruin your upcoming wedding. Jocelyn, I didn't expect you to be so magnanimous." He grabbed my shoulder with his backhand, and the force was so strong that it seemed as if he wanted to crush my bones. I gritted my teeth and helplessly endured it. Endured the anger he vented on me to avenge Serena. "You want to bully her to relieve your anger? Are you happy to see her being scolded? Isn't it good to just stay by my side obediently? Why do you have to cause trouble?" He smiled and then lowered his head and bit my lips fiercely. I felt the pain and tried to back away, but he wouldn't let me. His biting became more and more intense, and his aggressive aura spread overwhelmingly. In a muffled voice, he gritted his teeth and said, "Jocelyn, one should have a conscience. She is the Mrs. Xavier, recognized by the Xavier family. Don't bully her. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you in the future." His actions were fierce, and I could only grab the quilt and accept it resignedly. Just like countless times before, I didn't have a chance to refute at all. Finally, hadn't sigh. He pulled away and casually lit a cigarette, wiping the place on my lips that had been bitten open with his thumb. "Don't think about leaving me. And don't think about causing trouble by my side. Jocelyn, you know my temper." I knew. I knew from the very beginning. When I started my company, he secretly exerted pressure. When I sold the things he gave me, he bought them back and warned me not to be smart on my own. He just wants to keep me in prison and by his side. If I dare to disobey, he has plenty of ways to make me regret it. Jocelyn has already been trampled into the mud, and there's no chance to turn things around. Even if it's disgusting, I can only endure it. After smoking a cigarette, he softened his expression and patted my face. "That's a good girl." He said it with certainty. But I didn't respond. My fingers were tightly clenched into a fist. He won't listen to those explanations. Xavier is the kind of person who only believes what he wants to believe. When the daylight completely faded, Xavier's phone lit up again. When the name Serena popped up, I obediently handed the phone to him. "Serena is looking for you." He frowned slightly, and it wasn't clear who he was unhappy with. "You want me to answer it?" He asked this question out of the blue. I showed him a smile that I thought was perfect. Maybe she has something to talk to you about. I thought there was nothing wrong with what I said. But for some reason, Xavier got angry. He grabbed my face with a stern expression. As if he wanted to crush my smiling face. You're smiling quite happily? What? Do you want me to leave that much? No. I mumbled and corrected him, she's looking for you. If you want to go, then go. I wanted to say that I couldn't control your decision anyway. But he didn't give me a chance. He smashed the vase that I had just bought a few days ago. And the sound was ear-piercing. Jocelyn let out a low sigh. You really have the nerve. Since that's the case, you'd better remember what you said before. Keep your word and don't ruin my wedding. If I find out that you bully her again, don't blame me for taking it out on your brother. The apartment was in a mess because of his inexplicable anger. Before leaving, he threw a wedding invitation in front of me. Remember to arrive on time. My missus. Xavier said that she wants you to witness it in person. The moment the door slammed shut, I was as if frozen in place. The pain on my body reminded me of what I had just experienced. I thought about lying on the bed like a bitch for his amusement. Is this considered being the other woman? A disgusting and vile other woman. I dragged my almost broken body to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror with messy hair and disheveled clothes. The more confident Jocelyn used to be, the more embarrassed Jocelyn is now. I was amused by my own appearance and laughed until tears filled my face. Feeling sour and astringent. For the sake of money, I've actually become the person I hate the most. How disgusting. Even the breath exhaled by such a Jocelyn is disgusting. But I have no other choice. Xavier has trapped me to death. The moment I took that step 8 years ago, I entered a hopeless situation. No matter which step I take, the outcome is certain death. I can only stand where I am and conform to his thoughts. The hospital called again. As if thinking that the burden on me wasn't heavy enough, the nurse said that River had a fever again and it kept recurring without getting better. I gathered my emotions and rushed to the hospital. River had just woken up for a while. He used to always smile when he saw me. But today, he pouted and couldn't hold back his tears. I thought he was feeling uncomfortable and held his hand lovingly. But he asked me in a hoarse voice if he was going to die. How could that be? I stroked his head and soothed him over and over again. River. You were saved by your sister with all her might. River won't die. These words were to soothe River. And they were also to soothe myself. I couldn't bear to think about what I could rely on to live if I lost River in this world. But River lost his spirit. He held my hand and cried sadly, Sister. I don't want to be treated anymore. Don't humiliate yourself for me anymore. Xavier is not good at all. Can we not take his money? He knew. He knew everything. But without Xavier's money, River would die. My eyes were extremely sore. But I could only tell him, it will be okay. Everything will be okay. The Jocelyn family will be okay. River will be okay. And Jocelyn will be okay too. I stayed in the hospital for a long time. Just as I was about to leave, a nurse from yesterday stopped me. She looked very embarrassed but had to speak. I'm sorry. Jocelyn. Xavier has stopped paying the medical expenses. You may need to find a way to raise the money. I didn't even have time to feel embarrassed. My body seemed to be nailed in place. All that was left in my mind was confusion. Why? Did I not make him happy? Or did I not do something well enough? I squatted in the corner and shakily took out Xavier's phone number and dialed it. The phone rang 6 times. And the man's voice carried a hint of pleasure. What's up? He knew I would make this call. He knew I would beg him. I lowered my voice and clenched my fingertips tightly. Why? Why did you stop the payment? I've satisfied you with whatever you wanted me to do. I don't want to leave you either. You promised me. You can't lie to me. Xavier smiled leisurely and didn't care at all. I'm getting married. After marriage, my property will belong to my wife and me jointly. She said no. So naturally I won't give it. But we had an agreement before. I held the phone tightly, treating it as my last straw. Almost begging. I'm begging you. You can humiliate me however you want, but don't stop River's medical expenses. Or consider it as a loan from you. I'll pay you back later. Okay? I'm begging you. A loan? Xavier laughed even louder. If I lend it to you, What are you going to use to pay it back? Are you going to find another sugar daddy? Or, why don't you beg Serena? As long as she nods, I'll give it. How about that? I'll beg. I didn't hesitate. The thing called dignity was already gone on the day I got into Xavier's car years ago. Xavier paused for a second on the other end of the phone and mocked me. Jocelyn. Why are you so vile? I bit my lip and didn't say a word. The phone call ended, and Xavier sent me an address. It was a high-end custom wedding dress shop in the city center. I took a taxi there. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Serena on Xavier's arm standing at the entrance of the wedding dress shop opposite. About to go in. Xavier. I called out and rushed forward in a hurry. The next second, my body suddenly lifted off the ground. The moment I landed, pain spread throughout my body. I stared at the two people who walked into the wedding dress shop arm in arm and smiling in the distance. And the blood gradually blurred my vision. When I woke up again, I had already been sent to the hospital. I looked into the eyes of the person by the bedside for a few seconds. And my gaze gradually focused. Did you hit me? Sorry. The man in front of me was dressed in a suit and wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an air of a refined scoundrel all over. He got straight to the point and mentioned money as soon as he opened his mouth. I was wrong about this. I will cover all the expenses for your subsequent hospital stay and rehabilitation. You can also ask for any other compensation you want. If you want to call the police. He calmly handed me his phone. I can also cooperate. I didn't take the phone and didn't answer. On the wall-mounted TV, the wedding news of Xavier and Serena was being broadcast. This was the first time they had made it public. I watched infuriately. And the scene I saw after being hit couldn't help but come to mind. My stomach turned. And I was once again disgusted by my own despicable behavior. On the bedside table, my phone vibrated and made a sound. I took a look and saw that it was a call from Xavier. I hesitated for a second. And the man had already thoughtfully handed the phone to me. The moment I answered the call, Xavier's displeased voice came from the other end. Are you playing tricks on me? Jocelyn? I've stopped giving you the money. And you don't seem to be in a hurry at all. What? Don't you want to save your younger brother anymore? Don't you want the money? Xavier's voice was extremely sarcastic. This is your last chance. I'll send you the address of a hotel. Serve me well. And I'll give you another sum of money. The ward was extremely quiet. And his casual voice leaked out from the receiver. I saw the slightly raised eyebrows of the man beside me. I bit the corner of my mouth in embarrassment and remained silent. The call was ended. On the TV, the wedding news of Xavier and Serena was still being broadcast, but I felt as if I had sunk into the boundless deep sea, suffocated and desperate. It's quite disgusting. The man by the bedside turned around and sat down, his voice flat. But my hand dug into the palm of my hand. Yes, how had Jocelyn become so disgusting? I didn't mean you. Presumably seeing that my expression was off, he kindly explained. I know you. Jocelyn, right? Xavier has kept you by his side for 8 years and tried every means to clip your wing. Many people in the circle know about this. I really despise his behavior. He's so disgusting. Do you want to disgust him in return? I can help you. The man said this casually. But I was stunned. What? Do you mean? I have seen too much of the evil in human nature. It's not that I don't believe there is light in this world. I just simply don't believe that the light will shine on me. Jocelyn has already been trampled into the mud and is dirty for life. The man raised his eyebrows at me infuriately. Let me introduce myself. My name is Harlan. From the Gu family of the Harlan family in the southern part of the city. I understood. A few months ago, Xavier had a fierce fight with someone over a piece of land. And that person's surname was Gu. There was a glimmer of change in my eyes. It's not that I haven't thought about leaving Xavier. To be more precise, I have wanted to leave his side all these years. He's a madman. Since he lives in the shadows, he has to drag everyone around him to accompany him. I don't want to be controlled by him for the rest of my life. Your demands. I spoke directly to Harlan. Businessmen value profits. I don't believe he wants nothing in return. But unexpectedly, Harlan really wanted nothing. There's nothing about you that I covet. I just want to see him have a hard time. Harlan's reason wasn't enough to convince me. But he didn't care at all and still just smiled at me. Jocelyn, do you still have a choice? Your younger brother's medical expenses are quite urgent. Right? If you choose me, I can help you completely break away from Xavier and also help you continue to pay for your younger brother's medical expenses. Of course. You can also go to Xavier. He made it clear on the phone, and if you want to rely on him for the rest of your life, then just pretend I didn't say anything. He spoke bluntly. I have always been sober in my mind. He didn't force me. He just said that I should think it over and that I could contact him when I had made up my mind. I grabbed the hem of his clothes and let out a sigh. Let's cooperate. It's not that he's helping me. It's cooperation. I don't want to be imprisoned by anyone anymore. You provide me with resources and help the struggling company I had before get back on track. We'll settle the matter of you hitting me privately. After that, when my company shows signs of improvement, I'll give you a 5 share of the profits. This is all the sincerity I can offer at the moment. Is that all? Harlan shrugged and seemed to want to laugh. I thought the plot would be more cliché. Like you dump him and be with me. And then he chases after his wife in a desperate attempt, crying his eyes out. And finally, the two of us live happily ever after. Happily ever after? These 4 words don't seem to match Jocelyn no matter how you look at them. I gave a self-deprecating smile. But my eyes were firm. I don't want to become a daughter flower that can only rely on others to live again. I made a wrong turn once and reaped the consequences I deserved. If I have another chance, I will only hold my fate in my own hands. As for me and Xavier, we were wrong from the very beginning. I was wrong to trust him. And he was wrong to try to break my wings and imprison me by his side. Since it was a mistake, we should get back on the right track. Jocelyn has never been a woman who is willing to be reduced to an accessory. Unexpectedly, Harlan agreed to this unfair deal extremely readily. That night, I didn't go to find Xavier. I managed to annoy him as I wished and got 2 months of peace as I wished. Jocelyn isn't a good person and has never been. In order to continue paying for River's hospitalization, I sold all the jewelry and bags that Xavier had given me. Through Harlan's hands. These things were converted into cash and returned to me. The extra money I used to restart my company. I didn't take the money Harlan gave me. I said that I only wanted resources and projects. With the involvement of the Harlan family, my company finally started to show signs of improvement. He had read the materials of my company from earlier years and marveled. I have to say, you're a genius in this line of work. If it weren't for Xavier's deliberate suppression back then, the strength of your company today would definitely be immeasurable. I didn't refute. The Jocelyn family doesn't produce useless people. The former Jocelyn was thousands of times more outstanding than she is now. I moved out of Xavier's apartment and rented a 2-bedroom, 1 living room apartment near River's hospital. The small house was enough for me. With the company just starting up, I didn't have much time to rest and spent most of my time in the office. Harlan would come occasionally, using the excuse that he couldn't take the 5 share for nothing to help me with some things. And I didn't refuse. Thanks to him, I didn't end up dying of overwork at my desk. In the afternoon, after I signed the last contract, Harlan called me. There's a banquet tonight. Can you do me a favor? I looked at the mountain of folders on my desk and thought for a moment. He casually threw out a temptation to me. The few bosses you mentioned last time will all be there. Are you coming? Give me the address, the time, and the invitation letter. I won't refuse something that is beneficial to me. Businessmen value profits. And this is an unchanging truth throughout history. In the evening, Harlan picked me up and we went straight to the venue. Before getting out of the car, he hesitated and reminded me, Xavier is also here. Hearing this name again after 2 months, I felt no emotion. So what if he's here? Just because he's here, can't I come? He didn't know that I had restarted my company. He had been busy preparing for the wedding with Serena during this time and busy with the marriage alliance between the Xavier family and the Serena family. As an illegitimate son, if he wants to firmly establish himself in the Xavier family, he must attach great importance to this marriage alliance. So naturally, he has no time to pay attention to me. And what I want is for him to be too busy to care about me. I adjusted my emotions and entered the venue with a smile, holding Harlan's arm. Perhaps the world is too small. As soon as I entered the door, I met the gaze of Xavier, who was standing beside Serena under the lights. The smile on his face froze too quickly. I watched as his face turned dark. And finally, he squinted his eyes dangerously. I'm too familiar with that expression. It's a sign that a storm is coming. He was angry. But the angrier he was, the more relieved I felt. In such an occasion, he didn't dare to act recklessly. Harlan introduced me to several company presidents. I came with a purpose. Just to make myself known. Which would be convenient for future cooperation. For a full 2 hours, my face almost froze from smiling. Until Harlan was called away. I took the opportunity to go to the restroom. When I came out again, I ran into Xavier at the corner. He was completely hidden in the shadows. And the scarlet end of his cigarette stood out sharply amidst the curling smoke. You're quite capable, Jocelyn. You disappeared for so long. Didn't answer my calls. Didn't reply to my messages. And emptied the house. I thought you didn't want to save your younger brother anymore. It turns out you found another man to cling to. He reeked of alcohol. And I frowned at the smell, instinctively wanting to bypass him. But Xavier suddenly grabbed me and pressed me against the wall. Jocelyn, do you take my words as a passing wind? I said, don't leave me. Don't you understand? Do you think the money I give is too little, or that I'm not good enough in bed? Jocelyn, don't be too despicable. At such a close distance. I relaxed my frown and couldn't help but laugh. Xavier, when it comes to despicability, we're on the same level. Neither of us is much cleaner than the other. Jocelyn. He leaned close to my ear, gripping my wrist tightly, as if he wanted to crush my bones. You just want money, right? Fine, head in so YFSI. Come back. Stay by my side obediently. Stop thinking about running away. Stop thinking about starting a company. Stop thinking about leaving me. As long as you're good, I'll support you and your younger brother for the rest of your life. As long as you're as obedient as you used to be, I can give you more guarantees than that guy Serena. But I don't need it. My company will have a bright future. And in the future, it's not certain who will owe whom. Jocelyn, don't challenge my patience. Xavier growled at me through gritted teeth, and his tobacco-scented fingers pinched my chin as he was about to lean in and kiss me. The former Jocelyn, who was submissive for the sake of money, would have bowed her head and let him have his way. But now I bent my leg and gathered strength. Then mercilessly lifted it up at the right position. While he was in pain and released me, I slapped him hard across the face. Go to hell, Xavier. I used all my strength for that kick. I'm not sure if I disabled Xavier. But he definitely didn't have the time to bother with me anymore. And I felt relieved. What the hell? Harlan caught me in the front hall. Seeing that it was him, I waved my hand and let out a sigh of relief. After that, I didn't see Xavier at the banquet again. However, Serena's gaze always followed me, as if she wanted to devour me. But the problem was that she couldn't. So, who cared? After the banquet ended, I went to the hospital to visit River before going home. As soon as I got out of the elevator, a pungent smell of alcohol hit me. At my doorstep, Xavier was slumped on the ground like a piece of mud, still holding a half-burned cigarette in his hand. Kicking him in the groin. It's normal for him to have chased me here. I calmly took out my keys and walked over to open the door, acting as if the person on the ground didn't exist throughout the process. However, Xavier was dissatisfied and stepped forward to grab my ankle. You secretly started that crappy company again behind my back. Jocelyn. Who gave you the guts to provoke me again and again? It's not a crappy company. I corrected him. It's called the Jocelyn family business. Xavier sneered in disdain. What's the difference? Jocelyn, have you forgotten how it went under before? I kicked him away and raised my eyebrows coldly. So what? Do you want to use the same old tricks? If you think the result this time will still go your way, you can definitely give it a try. Xavier's expression changed. With the intervention of the Harlan family, I knew very well that he wouldn't get his way again. And Xavier knew this too. He leaned his head back dejectedly, let out a sigh, and seemed extremely helpless. Why don't you give up? Why do you have to rack your brains to leave my side? He seemed to be talking to himself. And I was too lazy to pay attention to him. I went inside and firmly locked the door behind me. Only a fool would waste time with a drunkard. The next day, I got up on time, tiddied up, and went out, unexpectedly. Xavier was still there after I opened the door. He probably hadn't slept all night. There was a mountain of cigarette butts beside him. His eyes were dark with fatigue. And there were red bloodshot eyes all over. I glanced at him inferently. A second before he could speak, I looked past him at the person at the elevator entrance. "You're here early," I said, waving the steamed buns in my hand. "The usual deal. 5 steamed dumplings. Remember to transfer the money later." Xavier's words were stuck in his throat. It wasn't until he saw Harlan walking over that his temper flared up instantly. He pushed the cigarette butts aside, stood up, and glared at me with cold eyes. "Jocelyn, you have no self-respect at all? You really stop at nothing for money." I was surprised. "Are you that shocked? Is this the first day you've known me?" Xavier was at a loss for words. Unwilling to give up, he tried to grab me with his backhand, but was blocked by Harlan. "Get out of the way." Xavier's eyes were bloodshot. "Everyone knows that Jocelyn is my woman. If you dare to get that close to her again, do you believe I'll destroy the Harlan family?" Harlan just took it as a joke. He calmly took out a marriage certificate from his pocket and held it in front of Xavier's eyes. "Sorry. We're legally married. It's no use for you to try to destroy me." Xavier's face visibly froze. "Jocelyn, when did this happen?" He reached out to grab the certificate, but Harlan turned around and dodged. Then neatly put the marriage certificate back into his pocket. "Why do you care when it happened?" Harlan spoke on my behalf. After retorting, he pulled me and ran. It was obvious that retorting Xavier was really a satisfying thing for him. I followed Harlan downstairs and got into the car. My phone in my pocket was almost ringing off the hook. There were one call and message after another from Xavier. I had never seen him so out of control before. Harlan told me to fasten my seatbelt. And then his smiling face reappeared. "It's a bit of a pity. We should have prepared the phone for recording in advance just now." I don't know if it's a pity or not. All I know is that he definitely came prepared. I stared at the red corner sticking out from the edge of his pants pocket. "Where did you get that thing?" Harlan took out the marriage certificate and handed it to me. The embossed seal on the inner page was genuine, but the photos were of unfamiliar faces. He ruffled his hair and smiled casually. "It belongs to my friend. Last night, I heard that Xavier was scratched by a cat at the banquet. I guessed that the cat was probably the one I caught. So I borrowed this just in case. Of course." He paused and looked at me meaningfully. "If you weren't, I don't mind making it a marriage certificate between you and me." I rolled my eyes speechlessly. "Well, you can think about it then." TSK. Boring. Harlan put away the marriage certificate and didn't mention it again. When we got to the company, I buried myself in the pile of documents in the office as usual. From morning till night. Until it was almost time to get off work. Today was Friday. I couldn't bear to ask the employees outside to work overtime with me. So I told them to go home early. Looking at the lively cheers in the group chat, I twisted my stiff neck and continued to look at the computer. Harlan sent me a document 8 minutes ago. When I asked him what it was, he just said it was something that could completely help me break away from Xavier. I hesitated and clicked to open it. The document was quite long, with a total of more than 30 pages. Just as I finished reading it, the door of the office was pushed open. "Jocelyn, what on earth are you trying to do? Do you really have to be the other woman and destroy other people's relationships? Xavier has supported you for 8 years. Isn't that enough?" Serena rushed in wearing a pair of stiletto heels. Her eyes red. The way she looked at me was as if she wanted to cut me into pieces. I was confused. "When you two have a fight, you both like to take it out on me? Stop pretending to be innocent." She held her phone up in front of me with a wronged look. On the screen were the chat records between her and Xavier. The first line was Xavier's cold and heartless words: "The marriage engagement is cancelled. Name your price for what the Serena family wants. From now on, I have nothing to do with you." I wasn't really that surprised. Having been with Xavier for 8 years, There were countless women around him. I was the one who had stayed by his side the longest. I knew very well that he couldn't settle down. He was just a selfish playboy. He chose Serena only because he had his eyes on the several projects and plots of land in the hands of the Serena family. If it wasn't to consolidate his position in the Xavier family and swallow up more things, why would he get married? Now that he was giving up on Serena, it was most likely because of the public opinion about the Serena family's enterprise producing poise and milk powder. However, Serena didn't realize this and instead turned the blame on me. I'm begging you to have some mercy. Can you please leave Xavier alone? After all, he has supported you for 8 years. In these 8 years, he took care of your food and accommodation and helped you raise your younger brother. Can't you think more about him? In the past half-month, many projects of the Xavier family have been snatched away. And there are already problems with the capital chain. He's asking for the cancellation of the engagement at this crucial moment. My father is asking for 10 million yuan. If he takes out so much money all at once, he'll be completely drained. He has worked so hard for so many years to get to where he is now. Do you really want to see him lose everything? Serena's words were pitiful. As if I was the cause of all this. But what did it have to do with me? I looked at the things on the laptop screen. And my 5 fingers on the table gradually tightened. My fingertips turning white from the force. Put away your tears. They don't work on me. Whether he's drained or not has nothing to do with me. His miserable end is all his own doing. He's an adult and naturally has to pay for his own actions. Bang! An unknown object behind the door shattered all over the ground. I looked up and saw Xavier standing at the door, looking at me with intense eyes. Jocelyn! Xavier called out to me. And his voice was actually trembling. Serena was crying with a wronged look. When she saw him, she couldn't seem to hold it in any longer. Xavier, you heard it all, right? This is the woman you've supported for 8 years. She doesn't love you at all. She doesn't care about your life or death at all. Even so, do you still want to cancel the engagement with me for her? Get out. He had red eyes. And his emotions were welling up in his eyes. It was obvious that if Serena dared to say another word, he would strangle her. Serena was terrified. The tears hanging at the corners of her eyes seemed about to fall but didn't. In the end, she didn't have the courage to challenge his bottom line and slunk out of the door past him. The door of the office closed. And in the small space, it was just me and Xavier left. His eyes were wide with anger. And in his bloodshot eyes, he saw me standing there indifferent. If you have something to say, say it. If not, get out. Without that previous unseemly relationship, I thought I didn't have to accommodate him anymore. But Xavier didn't seem to think so. Why? He frowned in pain. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist. Almost in a state of paranoia. You used to be so good to me. Jocelyn. Why have you become like this? Why can't you just stay by my side obediently? I once thought that if I was good to you, you would stay by my side peacefully. Jocelyn. Tell me why. Do you want to betray me and abandon me just like my mother did? I didn't want to get into these things with him. It was meaningless. If you have nothing else to say, then please turn right and leave the door. This please was the last bit of dignity I left for him. Xavier didn't respond. He slapped a notebook on the table and opened the first page. There. His name was written in red pen. And below it was Jocelyn. This is your diary from back then. Jocelyn. Don't be stubborn and say you don't love me. The words you wrote are more honest than your mouth. He thought he had discovered my secret. I laughed. My eyes red. And I almost burst into tears. You also know that this is a diary from back then. Then you should know that the one who loved you was the Jocelyn from back then. Not me 8 years later. I picked up the diary. The feelings of a young girl in the first throes of love were shyly carved on the paper. Full of joy or sorrow. Vivid and beautiful. I started writing it in the year he brought me home. At the age when I first fell in love. The Jocelyn family business went bankrupt and he saved me. Since then, my life was filled with him. My heart isn't made of stone. So it's not surprising that the 18-year-old Jocelyn was attracted to him. But when all this was compared with the content on the computer screen, it seemed so ironic. I couldn't bear it anymore. I tore off the first page and shredded it into pieces. Jocelyn! Xavier roared and rushed forward to grab it. I stuffed the notebook into the shredder with my backhand, and his hand finally landed on my shoulder. You're crazy! He grabbed me tightly. I could feel his fingertips trembling. But he could only watch helplessly as the shredder tore the notebook into pieces. He called me a bad person and said I was cruel. I smiled and retorted, telling him that it was never me who was cruel. How long could such shallow love last under his oppressive methods? What's more, he was the one who planned all this. The things Harlan sent me were still displayed on the computer screen, in black and white on a white background. They turned into a cold knife that stabbed my heart, making it bleed. I stared into Xavier's eyes, and my eye sockets were burning hot. Xavier, from the very beginning, I knew you were a selfish person. But you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have targeted the Jocelyn family business for your own self-interest. You've lied to me for a whole 8 years. How long do you want to keep lying to me? What? What? Xavier's hand upping my shoulder suddenly loosened. I saw a trace of panic in his eyes. But it was only for an instant. He furrowed his brows and seemed to want to say something. But I didn't want to hear a single word. I turned the computer towards him. On the screen, there were all kinds of evidence that he had taken the lead in uniting Darius Enterprises to target the Jocelyn family back then. It was the deception he had imposed on me all these years. He had portrayed himself as a savior and entered my world. But in the end, everything I had experienced was caused by him. Even half of the money he had used to support me and River over the years came from the Jocelyn family. How ridiculous. Xavier finally panicked. Jocelyn. It's not what you think. I can explain. What are you going to explain? The evidence is right in front of me. Do you want to tell me that you're not the chief culprit who killed my parents? That you're not the real villain who made me into this despicable state? I took a step back to avoid his hand. The person in front of me, this face, and this voice all made me want to vomit. Xavier, I used to be extremely grateful to you for pulling me out of the abyss when I was at my most desperate. But in the end, all my sufferings were actually caused by you. Do you know how disgusted I am? I'm disgusted that I once yielded myself to you. I actually smiled at my enemy for 8 years. I actually was so grateful to you. Just the thought that I once liked you makes me want to dig out my heart. Jocelyn. It's not like that. You can't. With red eyes, he forcefully turned my shoulders and pulled me into his arms. His whole body was trembling. Jocelyn. I just want you. But you were so dazzling in the Jocelyn family back then. I didn't deserve you. Jocelyn. I was just an illegitimate son who couldn't show my face in public. I was the shame of the Xavier family back then. How could I have deserved you at that time? So, all the trouble he had gone to back then was just for this. I was rooted to the spot. And my breath almost stilled. Just for such a ridiculous reason. You destroyed the Jocelyn family? You destroyed me. You went to so much trouble just to drag me into the mud? Jocelyn. Xavier's voice was trembling so slightly that it was almost inaudible. I love you. Jocelyn. How could I drag you into the mud? He kept talking to himself, and his burning voice stung my eardrums. Do you still remember the first time we met? At the banquet of the Xavier family. Everyone discriminated against me. Only you were different. You drove away the people who were bullying me and gave me a cupcake. You said that I could come to you if I got into trouble in the future. At that time, I made up my mind that I must protect you for the rest of my life. But you were in the Jocelyn family. Jocelyn. The Jocelyn family protected you too well. How could I protect you if the Jocelyn family didn't fall? Everything I did was for you. You can understand me. Right? Didn't you love me? Weren't you happy during these 8 years with me? Should I have been happy? Without my parents and my home. I yielded myself to power and wealth. For the sake of money. I learned every day how to please others. I couldn't even have my own thoughts. He wanted me to be unable to leave him. He wanted me to become a complete waste who could only rely on him. So he suppressed my company. Never allowed me to have too much assets under my control. And told me over and over again not to try to leave him. Because he was afraid that I would become that bright and beautiful Jocelyn again. Because he lived in a dark world. He wanted to drag everyone into the mud. But why? I never imagined that behind the decline of the Jocelyn family, there was actually such a ridiculous cause. Everything. It was all because of me. It was me who killed my parents. It was me who caused the efforts of the Jocelyn family over decades to collapse overnight. I shrank in pain. And my heart seemed to have been tortured thousands of times. Jocelyn was indeed dirty. Dirty from the heart to the body. Xavier was still holding me and saying something. But I couldn't hear a single word. I pushed him away like crazy. Let go of me. Let go. How dare he imprison me by his side for his own selfish desires? How dare he treat me like this? My mind was in a complete mess. And I don't remember how I rushed out of the office. Walking numbly on the asphalt road, I even lost one of my shoes. The autumn wind blew on my body. And it hurt bitterly. I walked to a deserted and dim park and curled up under a plastic arch bridge. Tears were like knives, scratching across my cheeks as if they were going to cut my face open. Mom. Dad. I was wrong. For a full 8 years. No wonder they never came to see me in my dreams even once. How annoying Jocelyn was. They had placed such great hopes on me. But I was so stupid that I became the lover of my enemy for 8 years. How disappointed they must have been in me. When Harlan found me, my head was already groggy, overwhelmed by great pain. He picked me up. And I saw that his eyes were also red. You're so stupid. He scolded me. I grabbed the hem of his clothes and cried even harder. Yes, heavily too. I was stupid. Jocelyn was simply hopelessly stupid. I lost consciousness in my remorse. And when I woke up again, I was already back in the room. Are you awake? Harlan handed me a cup of warm medicine. I didn't take it. And he wasn't in a hurry either. He took a step back to the chair and was extremely casual. If you die of illness, no one will take care of your younger brother. Oh, and your company. I heard that Xavier is already preparing to deal with your company. Gulping down several mouthfuls, I snatched the cup from his hand and drank the whole cup of medicine. It wasn't bitter. It was sweet. I pulled the corner of my mouth and said thank you. Harlan went outside again and brought me a stack of materials. If you want to bring down the Xavier family, you can take a look at these. On it were some of the evidence collected by the Harlan family over the years regarding the illegal activities of the Xavier family. Why do you keep helping me? I said that I didn't believe that there would be light shining on me. Jocelyn had already been dragged into the mud by Xavier. Harlan still didn't care at all. I do things based on my mood. Besides, the downfall of the Xavier family is not bad for me. I collected these things a long time ago. I pinched the corner of the materials. And my fingers were trembling with force. Harlan handed me his phone again. He's holding a press conference right now to announce the news of canceling the engagement. I guess he'll come looking for you next. Harlan was as good as his word. In the afternoon, Xavier called me. Jocelyn. Don't be so cruel to me. Let's meet and give me a chance to explain. You can make any request you want. And I'll satisfy you. As long as you don't leave me. Okay? Following that, there was a threat sent by Serena Jocelyn. You made me look like a fool in public and made me an outcast of the family. Thanks to you. My father wants to send me to the CEO of the Wayne Group as a lever to save the company's capital chain. Are you satisfied? I will never let you off for what you've done to me. I looked coldly at this resentful message and suddenly curled my lips into a smile. Okay. This word was a reply to Xavier. Presumably, he didn't expect me to agree so readily. Xavier's voice obviously relaxed. Jocelyn. As long as you're good, I can give you everything you want. I still just smiled. Smiling, I responded to Serena's provocation. How do you want to get back at me? I'm different from you. I have someone to protect me. Serena. What capital do you have now? You can't hurt me at all. With this one sentence, I completely ignited Serena. You just wait. She left a harsh threat, and there was no further response. Okay. I was waiting. Waiting to see the evildoer bring about their own downfall. Xavier sent me an address. An upscale Western restaurant in the city center. And the time was in the evening. When I went out, the sun had already set. There was no moon in the sky. Only heavy rain pouring down. Just like the day I met Xavier on the roadside 8 years ago. as soon as I went downstairs. The next second, I heard a harsh sound of tires screeching against the ground. Serena's tricks were too childish. She was so blatant that she even gave me countless opportunities to escape, but I fell to the ground. As they wished. I fell miserably in the rain and couldn't get up again. 1 second before the cloth soaked and either blocked my mouth and nose. I sent a message to Xavier. Xavier, save me. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a dim place. My hands were tied up, and my body was covered in rainwater. Feeling sticky. In my ears was the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, and in my nose was the lingering smell of seawater. I had been taken to the rocks by the seaside. In front of me, I could vaguely make out a figure. The person walked closer slowly. The blood-red clothes made the fierce and cold look on her face even more terrifying. "Oh, you're awake?" Serena squatted down and, imitating the way of the gangsters on TV, took a gun that she didn't know where she got and patted my face with it. I didn't say anything, but it made her laugh loudly. "What? Are you scared, silly?" I looked around and also smiled. "By the seaside? This location is very good. What are you talking about?" Serena suddenly became alert and grabbed my collar. In response to her, there was a roar in the distance. "Serena! You bitch! Who allowed you to touch her?" Xavier had come. He was also holding a gun in his hand and appeared in front of me as punctually as he did back then. At this moment, I should be crying. Right? I was kidnapped. I should be so scared. So, with red eyes, I called him plaintively, "Xavier, save me. I'm scared." He felt distressed. I saw him pull the trigger. But that wasn't enough. I shouted even louder. In return, I got Serena's furious anger. "Bitch. What right do you have to cry? It's me who was ruined. Why are you crying?" She grabbed me and pressed the gun against my temple. With a bang, the bullet passed through the body. But it wasn't mine. Serena fell beside me. And the scalding blood splashed all over my face. I saw the look of disbelief in Serena's eyes. And then, Xavier's panicked face. So, he could also be panicked. I was held in Xavier's arms. And he carefully wiped the blood off my face. He said, "Don't be afraid, Jocelyn. I'll protect you. Don't be afraid." Afraid? Of course I wasn't afraid. I watched as Serena, who had fallen to the side, covered her wound and shakily got up. Xavier's shot had missed. It was just a finger's width away from her heart. She wasn't dead. So, this time, it was Xavier's turn. "Bitch. You deserve to die. You all deserve to die. It's you who ruined everything for me." Serena raised her pistol and fired a shot. The gunshot was deafening. And the scalding blood sprayed all over me again. This time, it was Xavier's blood. He was still saying, "Don't be afraid, Jocelyn. I will love you. I will protect you. But I don't love you anymore." Serena rushed up and pulled us both into the sea. The heavy object falling into the water flat and the ripples in my heart. Xavier had protected me tightly in his arms from beginning to end. And blood was gushing out of his mouth. He tried to swim with me towards the safe area with great effort. I smiled. I kicked him hard towards the bottomless abyss. Didn't he say that he would satisfy any request I made? Then he might as well just die. In this sea that had taken away my parents 8 years ago, he could atone for his sins properly. This deep sea has claimed too many lives. But definitely, it won't be the final resting place for Jocelyn. I survived, relying on that last bit of strength. I've lived from 8 years ago until today, and even managed to be rescued ashore. Fortunately, having fulfilled my say, I only had a fracture. Surprisingly, the person who saved me turned out to be Harlan. The last person I saw before I closed my eyes was him. And the first person I saw when I woke up was still him. His eyes were red. And his face no longer had the calmness it used to have in the face of adversity. "Do you really have to be this crazy? Are you missing a few screws in your head?" He was scolding me. And his tone was quite harsh. The rain outside the window was still falling, pattering on the glass and making people feel uneasy. I said in a hoarse voice, "One question. Is he dead?" There was no subject in my sentence. But it was obvious who I was talking about. Harlan was so angry that he punched my hand. It didn't hurt. And along with his words. Dead. Both of them are dead. Completely dead. That gunshot hit the heart. And he couldn't have survived anyway. Not to mention he also drowned. I twitched the corners of my lips. And that restless heart of mine finally calmed down. It's good that he's dead. Seeing my heartless smile, Harlan got even angrier. I should have known better than to show you. Who would have thought you could be so ruthless? I thought he was saying I was ruthless to others. But then, with red eyes, he said I shouldn't be so cruel to myself. This plan was meticulous. But if I had been even slightly careless, I could have died too. He didn't know that the moment I replied to Serena's message, I was determined to die. But later I regretted it. Because I still had River. Because I didn't dare to face my parents. And also because Jocelyn still had unfinished business. During my stay in the hospital, I had someone investigate what happened 8 years ago. The truth emerged, uncovering a huge gray industrial chain, involving dozens of enterprises. Harlan told me to hand the evidence directly to the police. This was enough for those old guys to spend their remaining years in prison. I shook my head and refused. That wasn't enough at all. What I wanted to see was a dog-eat-dog situation. They were so united when they annexed the Jocelyn family back then. Now, I want them to rot and stink from the inside. I want to see them dig their own graves. I selected several pieces of evidence and anonymously sent them to the bosses of the leading enterprises among them. It was a simple scheme. But some people were guilty and couldn't sit still. Trust is broken down bit by bit. It took me 7 days to shatter the good dreams of dozens of people. Presumably, after some discussion, they presented a scapegoat. The person was exposed in the morning, and I contacted him in the afternoon. Through the internet. I sent him a message, "Don't you feel unresigned? You're sacrificing your life for theirs." He said he had to protect his family. I smiled. If you all die together, who can hurt your family then? Sometimes, a few words are enough to get the point across. That night, I slept exceptionally soundly. According to Harlan, that person later went crazy, and unexpectedly reported everyone to the police. You see, it's much more interesting when they turn on each other. Later, with Harlan's help, I took over the Xavier family. It was a difficult process. But at least, I managed to get back everything that Xavier had taken from the Jocelyn family. On the day we closed in on them, Harlan gave me a thumbs up. It wasn't because he thought I was amazing. He just admired me for so easily provoking internal strife among so many enterprises. I shook my head, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, the sun was shining brightly. Harlan came to pick me up, and he brought a bunch of red roses. The flowers were extremely dazzling, but I didn't take them. Jocelyn is a bad person. Ever since she followed Xavier and fell into the darkness 8 years ago, she has become a completely dirty and disgusting bad person. A person like this shouldn't taint the dazzling things in the sunlight. Harlan didn't say anything. He just took my luggage, took me back to the apartment, and then took me to see River. River and I hadn't seen each other for dozens of days, and he was really clingy to me. The doctor said he had recovered well during this time, and even agreed to his request to sleep at home for a few days. At night, I held him and we slept in bed. That kid actually imitated the way our mother used to pat my back when we were little. He said, "Sister is too tired. I want to coax sister to sleep." Perhaps because his actions were so much like our mother's, I fell asleep in a trance. And in my dream, I actually saw those two familiar figures. I shrank back and didn't dare to approach. But Mom and Dad came over with red eyes and hugged me tightly in their arms. "My little treasure. You're so great." There was no blame, no complaint, and no resentment. The high wall that I had built in my heart for 8 years collapsed in an instant. Little treasure didn't lead the way you expected. Little treasure is really, really bad. Little treasure thought that you would never want to see little treasure again. How could that be? Our little treasure will always be the best. Little treasure will always be Mom and Dad's pride. Mom and Dad love little treasure the most. On the future, little treasure, you should be kinder to yourself and don't let yourself be wronged anymore. Okay. I nodded. Little treasure will definitely be good to myself and also be good to River. In a daze, I heard the sound of a bell. When I blinked again, the figures of my parents were gone. What remained were the setting sun, it rose as usual in the sky every day, and River beside me who opened his eyes in a daze. He carefully wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "Sis, I heard you talking in your sleep. Did you dream of Mom and Dad?" "Yeah. I promised Mom and Dad." I looked at the warm sunlight outside the window and greedily absorbed that easily obtainable warmth. "I promised Mom and Dad that I will never humiliate myself again. From now on, Jocelyn will live a better life. The mud can be washed off. Jocelyn can also shed her false glamour and step back into the light."